Hey there, welcome. It's good to have you with me tonight. Thanks for being here. I just want to begin by reminding you, if you watch this on the replay, to take a moment to like the video, drop a comment, subscribe to my channel, maybe share it with a friend. Those are all things that make these videos more visible on the replay, and I really appreciate your help with that. I also want to remind you of the URL that is showing on your screen, iridology.education/course-info. If you are interested in learning more about learning iridology, that's the website you want to be at. I love doing these mini classes and sharing modern iridology information with you. And the truth is, though, that I could never teach you enough in these sessions, and I know you know that. So you just need to remember, as we're going through and skimming the surface when we're talking about pupil indicators tonight, that to learn iridology well takes training, it takes practice, it takes mentoring, it takes feedback. It's not just something you're going to learn from watching videos, but you'll get your feet wet, and it's kind of fun to dabble in things. And if you're serious about learning, then reach out to me. So again, if what I'm sharing with you tonight catches your interest, then use that URL you're seeing on the screen, and I'll share that URL with you again later tonight as a link in the chat box. Take a moment, if you would, and find that chat box and just say hello to me so that I know that you know how to give comments, because I'm going to be asking you questions. I'm going to want some feedback. So take a moment and find that webinar chat box, not the Q&A box. I never use the Q&A box, the chat box, and just say hello so that I know that you are with me. And if no one does that, I know you're sleeping. Hi, Martha. Good to see you. All right, and there's some more people that we're just waiting for them to say hello as well. But I wanted to share with you what one of my students said as she was taking the class. She said, this is Trisha Kolstoy. She's an NHCP and an iridologist. She said, I just wanted to say that as a new student has worked in iridology before this and is a certified iridology through another teacher, I've learned more in the first two lessons of your dynamic iridology course than in all of my previous iridology training. I'm so glad that I decided to sign up. I know that after taking this course, I will be able to offer my clients the best and most up-to-date knowledge. That's pretty amazing that she was certified elsewhere, but learned more in the first two lessons of dynamic iridology than she learned in all of her other training. So that gives you an idea of the depth of the course that I teach when we teach dynamic iridology. Good to have more people joining us. Now, tonight especially, more so than maybe some of our other webinars, I am going to read this. This information is meant for your education only. It is not meant to diagnose or prescribe. You are responsible for any results, good or bad, that result from using this information. So this is really important to remember, that we never diagnose and we never prescribe. And if you get good results from using this information, go you, that's great. That's what we're looking for, right? But if you don't know what you're doing and you make a mistake, it's not my fault. When we do iridology, we look at the iris, the sclera, and the pupil. Each of those parts of the eyeball give us different information. The most researched of those is the iris. The sclera hasn't had quite as many decades of research, but it's slowly catching up, and we're starting to see some really good information here. And the pupil as well, again, not quite as many years, but some really good information there. So we're going to be looking at pupils. So we're going to look at some key indicators that we see in pupils. This is going to be a real high-level overview. All right. So good to see you, Jennifer. Thanks for saying hello. Appreciate that. Okay, so if you're ready to look at some pupils, give me a ready in the chat box. Let me know you are ready to start looking at pupils and learning some about pupils in an analysis. Yeah, Martha and Cynthia, fantastic. Good job. So good. All righty. So as we talk about pupils, see if you know anyone who fits these categories. And Jennifer's ready as well. This is so good to have some of you being very active with me. Thank you for that. The first thing we're going to look at is called meiosis. Meiosis means that the pupil is smaller than we would expect it to be. It's much smaller. Like it looks like this person almost sometimes doesn't have pupils. They're so tiny. What we need to remember with this is that we actually never assess meiosis from a photograph. Anyone want to lob out a guess as to why we cannot assess meiosis accurately from a photograph? Let's see who puts an answer in the chat box. Some of you might have been with me when I did this one before, this topic before, so maybe you'll remember. Jennifer says the lighting and the flash. Jennifer, you get a gold star. Absolutely perfect. Well done. You're absolutely right. When we are doing iris photography, we've got flashes going off, and you take that first photo, and first off, there's a focus light shining right at that eye. That's going to start constricting that pupil. And then we do the first shot and we go flash, and my camera does 4 really rapid fire flashes, just bang, 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 to get different lighting. It's all automatically set up to do that. But it means that the amount of light going in is telling the nervous system of the body to close down that pupil. Don't let so much light into the eyeball. And so in real life, we never assess meiosis from a photograph. When we're learning, we have to, because how else am I going to share these photos with you when you are located all over the world, right? So in real life, you want to look at the person face to face, and you want to do it without artificial light. So by that, I mean, you don't want to be using a lighted magnifier and hold that up to their face with the lights on and go, oh, you've got small pupils, because that light is enough to create some issues as well, right? It's enough to shrink things down. So you just want to look at their pupils just in normal lighting, just looking at their face, and see if you think their pupils are small. Now, when we have someone who has naturally small pupils, then we can call them meiosis. This means that they tend to function more in the parasympathetic nervous system. Now, you'll remember that parasympathetic is rest, digest, and sex, right? This is that relaxed state where you're feeling good, everything's just chill, right? And so these are people who like to be in control. And as long as they're in control, and as long as all the ducks are in a row, as long as the books are neatly organized on the shelf, as long as the spices in the kitchen are all in alphabetical order, they're just fine. And their world is good. The moment you go and you say, I'm going to mess with this person, I'm going to take 2 spices and put them in the wrong places, then we're going to see a different person here. This person will not be fine with that. How dare you mess with their order and their logic and the system they've got? Right? So they like to be in control of the world. And as long as they are in control of their world, then they're fine. Now, do you know anybody who has small pupils? I want you to think through anyone where you thought, oh, gee, they often have small pupils, right? Now, of course, pupils are often small because of the amount of light when we're learning it this way on a computer. And so we want to make sure that we are using appropriate lighting. So when we're taking photos of people's eyes, when they've got these beautiful dark brown eyes, we need to use a slower shutter speed. Okay, and that means that the camera is going to not have to increase the amount of light, but it's going to, over time, allow more light to hit the eyes, and that'll help us to see more details. But it will, for most, end up constricting their pupils somewhat. Okay, so again, we want normal room lighting. When we have these small pupils, then this person is living primarily in the parasympathetic nervous system. All right, so Jennifer saying my cousin did, but I think he was on medication too. I wasn't sure if that's what caused it, and it can. Different medications can cause constricted pupils or enlarged pupils. And so that's an important thing to be aware of. If you're looking at someone's eyes and you're wanting to do an iris analysis, you always want to find out if they are on any medications, right? Because if they are, then I always tell my students, you need to have a good drug reference book on your desk so you can look up that drug, see if there's anything in there that would give you a clue as to if that drug could create this side effect. Okay, so when we've got someone who functions in the sympathetic nervous system and they like to be in control, but they're easily stressed if they're not in control, I want you to think back to your anatomy and physiology. What could this affect and what could it look like? If someone is not able to maintain control of their environment and it's causing them stress, what kinds of physical symptoms might we see? Yeah, I'm getting you to think here, getting you to dig deep. Well, we've already said they're stressed. The rings on the eyes, no, that's not because of the stress at this stage of the game. So we've already said they're stressed. Well, how might that show up for them? So Jennifer, when you say that the stress would cause the rings in the eyes, that sounds like you might have some Jensenian training under your belt. We did actually a lesson on this, a mini class on those a while back. So, oh, here we go. Heart issues, nerve issues, redness, inflammation. Uh-huh. Could be immune problems. Yeah, I know a lot of people who, when they get stressed, they get sick. Absolutely. Yeah. Now you're thinking. Now you're thinking, this is good. This is good. Sometimes we see digestive upsets. Sometimes we see muscle tension or headaches. Sometimes we see moodiness, people who just get irritable and cranky when they're under stress. Yeah, sometimes we see blood sugar imbalance, that the blood sugars go out of balance further when someone's under stress. We could call it distress, right? Okay, excellent, excellent. Let's go to the other end of the spectrum now, and that would be mydriasis. So mydriasis is when we have pupils that are abnormally large in normal room lighting. Now, this is very common in children. When you think about it, this is them being in the sympathetic nervous system, right? So they're fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, right? So these are the people who are always on high alert. They're waiting for the next shoe to drop, the next bomb to go off, the next crisis to happen. And they're going to respond in a big way to that. They're not going to be real calm and really laid back. They're going to have an overreaction. Now, when you think about young children, where most of the world is still new to them, every day has a new experience, they are very prone to being in that sympathetic response pretty much all the time. Right? As they get older and they've had more life experience and they begin to understand what is safe and what is not, those pupils will often settle down to a normal size. Now, if you're working with someone who's got very large pupils and you're taking iris photos of them, you are going to need to find a way to tone down the amount of light you use in your flashes. Because when the pupils are open this wide, those bright flashes are really going to hurt. Right? They're going to be very uncomfortable. So you might need to reduce the amount of light and slow down your shutter speed to get the photos that you want. These people, again, the pupils will tend to come down as they get older, as long as they're taking care of themselves. These people function in that sympathetic response, right? They tend to be very generous to a fault. And they tend, again, to have these overreactions. So if someone is having a sympathetic nervous system reaction in their body or in their mind, what is that going to look like? Think of your reaction if you're driving down the highway and somebody cuts you off. driving down the freeway and someone cuts you off? What are your reactions? What if you've got a practical joker in your family and they're always, standing around a corner and jumping out at you and, boo, in order to try to scare you? What are your reactions? Now, if your body was under that kind of stress constantly, what would those reactions look like? Tapping, nervous, tense, explosive. Yeah. Fatigue. Jennifer, you're thinking here. Good job. Yeah, excellent. Those are certainly many of the kinds of things that we can see with this. This could also be the kind of person who, again, where the stress goes to their gut, where they're always on edge, and it has just, we know that when we are in that sympathetic response, digestion shuts off. So these people have learned that if they eat, it's going to end up hurting. It's going to sit in their system. It's going to ferment. It's going to rot. It's going to produce a lot of gas. It's going to be very uncomfortable. So they might have gut symptoms. They might also have muscle tension, right? They might have the headaches. Really, they can have the same physical symptoms that someone who has meiosis can have, because they are both hopefully temporary imbalances in the nervous system and how the person responds to stress. We also want to remember that mydriasis happens when we are looking at someone we love or at something that is beautiful, something that we just want to take it all in. The pupils will get really big to help us do that. So, if you have a married couple come into your clinic and they are obviously very in love and very attentive to each other, and they're very gentle with each other, and you notice that their pupils are large, it could be they're smoking pot together, hopefully not, but it could also be that they are loving each other, that they just are so madly in love that their pupils just go, oh, I want to see more of this person, right? Here's another example of mydriasis. This isn't quite as pronounced as the first one we saw. Again, mydriasis means this person lives in that constant state of waiting for a crisis. That's exhausting. I mean, that's going to mess with sleep. It's going to mess with digestion. It's also going to impact a person's ability to think clearly, to think logically, to think sequentially, right? When you think about it, when you're super stressed about something, how well do you function overall? So we want to watch for that with our clients, right? So just in case you're new to me, I'd like to take just a moment to introduce myself. My name is Judith Cobb, and I am one of 10 level 3 certified iridology instructors through the IPA Association, right there, in the world. There are not very many of us that are certified at level 3. There's a lot that are level 2, and that's brilliant. Level 3, of course, is just up a little bit more with more training and more experience. Over the 45 years, that just sounds like so long. Like, I don't think I'm old enough to have 45 years under my belt with this, but I am. I have achieved many certifications in nutrition, herbology, iridology, and a whole lot of other things. And I've written many, many books, all of which are out of print except for the Dynamic Iridology textbook, which we use in the actual full-on course. I've also created a lot of different courses. I'm in the process now of developing a whole new palette of courses for certified iridologists, for IPA certified iridologists, that will be focusing on individual situations. Currently, I'm developing one on the hepatic system and iridology, and what the eyes can teach us about the hepatic system, and diving deep into the hepatic system to understand it as well. So those are some things that are coming up. I am also a master herbalist and a natural nutrition clinical practitioner. These are the other professional organizations that I am affiliated with. All right. So moving back to eyes, any lips? So when you think of ellipse, I want you to think of just an oval. An ellipse here is just an oval. It's a pupil that instead of it being nice and round, it's oblong. And it's not going to be super oblong, but you can see on this one that the axis of the ellipse is running roughly this direction. This side looks like it was pressed in, and this looks like it was pressed in a little bit. So that gives us this oblique ellipse. So depending on which eye and which direction the ellipse is facing, it usually will suggest an increased risk of bronchial issues. And there can be other things here as well, but bronchial issues would be the most pervasive one. In order to assess ellipses correctly, you must know which eye and you must know what direction the ellipse is going, right? So I would also want more information about the person and their health and their life experiences and things like that to understand how to assess this. This fellow, and this is not necessarily related to the ellipse because the ellipse, of course, is more about respiratory. But a bit of this fellow's background is he's a type 2 diabetic. He was diagnosed in his early 60s and he takes metformin. He's absolutely not willing to do anything else to balance his blood sugars. He figures if his brother has diabetes and his mother had type 2 diabetes, then it's good enough for him. You know, it's a family thing. Can't do anything about it. And it's like, I just want to shake him and go, no, 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 you can do something about this. I've helped so many people that were type 2 diabetic get their blood sugars balanced, get their cholesterol balanced, get their triglycerides balanced, get their weight where it belongs, and get them off the meds, right? So that is one example of an ellipse. Here's another one that's a really good. Can you see the ellipse here? Can you see the ellipse? If you can, give me yes in the chat box. Can you see that this pupil is not round? Round-ish, but it's a squished roundish, so it is an ellipse. So again, when we see this, the first thing we're going to be wondering is, are there respiratory issues? Right? Are there respiratory issues? That's just so important to grasp here. So this is a left eye. And with that, the ellipse that is pointing up as a left oblique for the client. This could suggest an impending risk of a left-sided paralysis. Could also suggest sexual disturbances. And it could also suggest a lack of strength and energy in the legs. But we also want to consider the respiratory risks here too. So we want to ask about that personal and family history. Flattenings. Now you've probably noticed as we've been looking at photos, let's just pop back here. Because there was one that was really flattened. This one has a lot of flat aspects to it. Can you see that there are parts that look like they've just been pressed in and made flat? If you can, give me flat in the chat box. Oops, that one is another good one, flat right here. Can you see this? Give me flat in the chat box if you can see it. Thank you, Cynthia. Excellent, excellent. And Martha can see it, and so can Jennifer. So good, so good. So let's get back to, and I just noticed I've got a spelling mistake in there. Okay, flattenings. So the position of the flattening gives us a couple of pieces of information. Now, the first thing is that whatever organs that are adjacent to it are likely the organs that are struggling. Flat means there's an interruption in the nerve feed. The nerve feed doesn't go through well. So something's not quite right. And it usually has to do with a long-standing spinal misalignment. Right. And I'm not suggesting that we should each see our chiropractor once a week. I am suggesting that when we see this, we need to suggest that the client do what they need to do to get into alignment. But as important as that is, if they are not doing things to help them maintain the alignment, then why bother getting into alignment? Right? Too many people go to a chiropractor. The chiropractor will manipulate them into alignment, But because there was no work on the muscles to relax the muscles or to balance out the muscles, there was no work on the nervous system to improve the nerve feed to those muscles, the person's going to be out of alignment before they leave the office again. Right. So if that chiropractor is not, or the osteopath, or whomever the person is working with, if they are not doing things that will help the client maintain the alignment, then it's a waste of time and money. This eye specifically suggests pituitary, kidney, adrenal, and bladder lung would be areas that are likely being affected to some extent. And this client in particular has asthma. Right? So when we see the asthma and we see where the flattenings are, it makes perfect sense. The only way this person is going to be able to really remediate the asthma is to get that spinal alignment dealt with and to deal with the nerves and the muscles that keep everything in balance. Does that make sense? It's not just about pushing that spine where it needs to go. It's about then rebalancing all of the soft tissues and all of the nerve tissues. Does that make sense? If it does, give me makes sense in the comment box. Jennifer says it makes sense. Thank you, Jennifer. Appreciate that. So on this eye, our flattenings are here and here. This is a right iris, so we've got inferior lateral and inferior medial for flattenings. This is a young woman who, she was about 21 when she came to see me, and her doctor had told her that she was postmenopausal. Her menstrual cycles were about 8 weeks apart. And the doctor just said, oh, your hormones say you're postmenopausal. I'm looking at it and going, you're crazy. You're crazy. Because all of her other symptoms said she had polycystic ovarian syndrome. Right. And so when we look at these flattenings, it makes sense because the inferior medial, so on this side, because this is this is a left iris. Sorry, if I called it a right iris, I was mistaken. This is the left iris. So inferior medial is pancreas, liver, and inferior lateral is ovary. Well, if you know PCOS, you know it's about blood sugars and how the blood sugars impact estrogen and testosterone and progesterone, right? And so that was the angle we took with her, was cleaning up her diet to get rid of those refined carbs, to get her more physical activity, to get her more protein, to get her more good vegetables, more of the low carbohydrate vegetables. And that was how we began to turn things around. And then I lost track of her. She moved out of town. So with this, it can eventually become round if she does enough homework. Here again, we have some flattenings on, this is the right eye. So the nose is sitting right here. It's like she's looking at you from across the table. So superior lateral and superior medial and inferior medial, right? Every one of these flattenings has to do with pancreas. Every one of them. Now, this is interesting. This is a client who's been with me for over 40 years. She was one of my very first clients. And clients come for several appointments and then they disappear for a little while. And then they come back when things are falling apart again. And that's just the dance we do. When she started coming back a few years ago, she was coming back because she had elevated hemoglobin A1C, elevated triglycerides, and elevated cholesterol. Right? Was not doing really as well as I would have liked her to have done. She had gained probably about 30 pounds. And she's not overly tall. She's 5 foot something. She's on the shorter side, like 5'4", 5'3". And so putting on 20 or 30 pounds is way more than her frame could take. So she also has a lot of liver pigmentation. So her liver wants to be involved in the process. And again, everything we see in the irides is inherited. So I'm combining now pupil shape with what I see in the irides. She also has the lipemic diathesis, which tells us that her liver has been unhappy for a long time and it's not processing carbs properly. And those carbs, which should be going to energy burn, are going to fat and to cholesterol. Okay. So we started working on all of this and we worked on it really well. She was losing weight. Her numbers corrected very quickly, very quickly. And then they had a trauma in their family, a very significant trauma that really broke her heart. And a few months after that, she had a heart attack. Now, fortunately, she survived. But now we are working to get her back on track. And the challenge is that even though she knows a lot about nutrition and herbs, the doctors have really scared the living daylights out of her. If she stops any of the 8 medications they've got her on, they've told her she'll die. And I'm not sure I buy that. At any rate, we're doing what we can, really working with food and with lifestyle and seeing what we can do to strengthen her. Have to be very careful with those meds, right? There's so many things that we cannot combine with those meds. So again, that pupil shape can be dynamic, or some aspects of pupil shape can be inherited. They can be passed down through the generations. Thanks, Mom. Thanks, Dad, right? But this is what you've had here is just a tiny taste of what we know about pupils. There's so much research going on right now into the shape of pupils and looking at the actual edge, this what we call the inner pupillary border, right at the very edge. So much information there. Lots of stuff to share and to learn. So with all of that, I would like to take just a moment to introduce you to the Dynamic Iridology Assessment System course. Now, some of you want to learn iridology just because it's fun, it's interesting. Some of you maybe have learned iridology like the student that I shared with you at the very beginning, and you're feeling like it's maybe not working and you want something deeper. Some of you want a way to assess your clients that is quick and easy and integrates well with the nutrition or herbal work that you do. And iridology does all of those things. When my students finish learning iridology with me, they see that they can do much faster assessments overall. The iridology becomes the intake. So rather than using an intake questionnaire, the iridology becomes the intake questionnaire. Iridology helps you to be more accurate. You can take your client's symptoms, match them up with what you see in the eyes, and then understand the pathway. This is where the anatomy and physiology is so important. That helps you to understand the pathway of how your client got to these symptoms. Because I think we can agree that the symptom is not really the problem. Do we agree with that? If you agree with the symptom is not really the problem, give me agree in the chat box. The symptom can be irritating and aggravating, but it in and of itself is not usually the root of the problem. Iridology helps you to find that root quite accurately. Iridology helps you to create a better and faster rapport. How does it make you feel when you are with someone and they're asking really generic questions like, how are you? How's your day gone? Compare that to someone who's kind of been paying attention to you, not quite, stalking you, but they've been paying attention to you. And they ask you more specifically, like, how's that broken arm healing how's that arm healing that you broke 3 months ago? Which one makes you feel like someone was paying attention better? A general question or a specific question? The specifics, yeah. That's what iridology helps you to do. Your client gives you their symptoms, and then layering that up with their eyes, you can ask very specific questions. And they know they've been heard on the symptoms, and they know you are digging deeper to help them find answers. And iridology eliminates the need for an intake form. You absolutely need a release form, absolutely 100%. That's unfortunately just the world we live in nowadays. But these lengthy questionnaires, some people, I know one nutritionist here in Canada who has a 20-page questionnaire. I wouldn't fill it out. I simply wouldn't. I don't have that kind of patience or time. Talk to me. Find out what you need to know by talking to me. Ask me those same 20 pages of questions if you want, but talk to me, right? People want to be heard. They want to be listened to, right? They want to know they're being understood. I've got a lot of clients who've been with me long enough, like decades, where we could do their appointments literally in 30 minutes or less. And yet they insist on booking a full hour because I listen. I'm interested in their lives. I want to help them. I'm going to take eye photos. We're going to find out what their physical symptoms are. We're going to do something very specific to them. And they like that. People like that. The Dynamic Iridology Assessment System for Health Professionals is the only live, online, fully mentored course for anyone who's got a college-level anatomy and physiology degree, who wants to streamline their clinical work without sacrificing client care. Too many holistic health or health professionals spend time outside of their client time creating programs and writing reports for clients. That is a waste of time. I like to teach my students how to do the assessment and the program creation while they're with their client. So they're getting paid for every minute they're working instead of not getting paid for the time they're working. And when we do this, it means that we stop overwhelming our clients with programs that are unmanageable, and we create programs that will increase client compliance because we are building the program step by step, focusing on a limited number of things at a time because it's manageable. That's going to create client success and long-term retention. I have so many clients that, they do disappear for several years, and then just out of the blue, they're coming back in for a couple of appointments because something has shifted. They're needing some attention, right? And they'll come back in for 2 or 3 or 4 more appointments. We'll get them going in the right direction again, and then they disappear for a few more years. I've had some people be gone for as many as 20 years. And when they came back, they said, yeah, I've been feeling great for all this time. I've been still doing everything that you said to do, but I'm starting to feel like I'm slipping. I've got this problem or that problem coming up. And I knew I could come back and that you would have answers for me. Right? And that's what we want. That is the kind of long-term retention that we want, right? Do you agree that if you can get clients coming back, even if they've been gone for years, that that's good for business? How would you like to have that kind of long-term rapport? That good build-up. So good. So the next course is starting on Thursday, February 27th, the class time. We've got all the different time zones there. This one is Europe friendly because it's 8 p.m. London, England time, daytime hours for those of us in North America. And again, with this, the only way you get to be considered for enrollment, yes, I'm a little bit of a control freak, is if we have a private one-on-one conversation, right? So I've posted a link in the chat box. If you've got that college level anatomy and physiology and you're thinking, this is the time, this is when I want to be learning iridology, I'm ready for it now, grab that link that I put in the chat box, use it to schedule a time for us to talk, and we'll talk just you and me one-on-one. I'll ask you questions. I want to make sure this is a good fit for you. You can ask me questions. I can give you a tour of the student site. We'll make sure that it is the best possible fit. Now, if you don't already have that college level anatomy and physiology course, please reach out to me. Do not book a session. Do not book a one-on-one call. Just shoot me an email or drop me a note through Facebook or whatever. And I will send you a link to the anatomy and physiology course that I recommend. It's a self-paced course. It's a virtual course. So, if you're really focused, you could have it done by the end of February if you want to join us for dynamic iridology at the end of February. This is what one of my other graduates said, Michelle Davies. She came to me certified in Iridology by David Pesic. She had done all 4 of his levels. She'd done a few other Iridology courses too. And this is what she said. I asked her, why did you take my course? You had all this other training. Why did you come to me? I wanted the latest info from an experienced practitioner that has used Iridology in a nutritional practice for a long time. Having my classroom at home allowed me to have all my charts and books by my side, made it easier, and having an awesome sharing and caring teacher made it the best. Judith helped me better my nutritional Iridology practice. I recommend her courses to everyone. So cool, so cool. And Stephanie Morgan, Stephanie has a master's degree in education. Right, so she understands what good education looks like. So I really appreciate what she said. These are comments she's posted on various places on Facebook. I asked her, why did you take my course? She said, I'd seen enough of instructors online to know that you are the best teacher. The way you organize info, check for understanding, and coach students. Other instructors know their stuff, but you have the heart of a teacher. I wanted to graduate with understanding, not just knowledge. And then she said, I just have to praise my teacher for a minute. Those of you who know Judith from videos already recognize she's an amazing instructor. What you may not realize is that students and graduates have access to Judith and training videos and alumni even after the class is finished. She's a rare find in the under promise and over deliver. I'm so thankful I was led to her website. So what is included in the course? 20 class sessions, 1 per week, about 2.25 to 2.5 hours long. These are live interactive webinars, kind of like what we're doing tonight, except that as students, you would have your cameras and your microphones open. And we would be having more of a conversation, not just me asking questions. We have 2 extra 1-hour group mentoring sessions per month. These are optional. What I mean by optional is they're included in your tuition. And if you want to come, you can. And if you don't want to come, or if your work schedule conflicts, you don't have to. These are recorded so that if you're thinking, ooh, I want to see what they talked about, you can. Jennifer says, I love that you check for understanding and knowing versus just learning it. Yeah, absolutely. And we do a lot of that in the course, Jennifer. In the actual classes, I am quizzing. I'm doing pop oral quizzes constantly and making sure that it's making sense. I'm asking my students very open-ended questions like I did tonight of, what would this look like? And if you've got herbal or nutrition training, I'm going to ask, and what would be 1 or 2 dietary recommendations you'd make in this situation? What would be a herbal recommendation you'd make? Is there a vitamin or mineral you would make, a recommendation you'd make? What about lifestyle? Is there a lifestyle change that would be helpful here? All right, so I'm looking not just at teaching Iridology, but teaching you how to integrate it with what you're already doing. Iridology as a standalone is great, but it's much better if it's integrated. Also included in the course is a 225-page illustrated full-color digital downloadable textbook, 45 pages of cheat sheets. We call them cheat sheets, but they're kind of study notes. They're the quick reference guide that I have all of my students just put them in a binder, print them up, put them in a binder. And when you're with a client and you're doing an assessment, you're like, oh, I know what that is, but I've forgotten it right now. You can look it up really quickly, right? And remind yourself of what it means, what kinds of questions you should ask, what kinds of recommendations you might consider making, what kinds of symptoms you might be seeing with this, right? So it's a really good quick reference guide. Every class session is recorded and is stored on your student site. So if you have to miss a class, no big deal. You can make it up, right? As are the mentoring sessions recorded as well. Small class sizes. I know there are some Iridology teachers who will have like an audience in a live class that's 4 days long, and they have like 75 or 100 people in that class. How does the teacher check for understanding? I don't know. That's a skill I don't have to do it that way. Even an online class, I would, if I've got more than 10 students, I can't do it. I cannot give each student the individual attention they need. So we keep the classes small. 10 is about the most I would do. There's one-on-one mentoring. You have the option of paying tuition at a level that says, no, thank you, I don't want to certify. I want all the training, and at the end of the classes, I'm good. Or you have the option of paying a little bit more to do all the classwork and then have a little extra one-on-one mentoring, some hand-holding to prepare you for certification with IPA, right? So that's a choice that you can make. I don't railroad anybody into being certified if they don't want to be. So if this course sounds like something that you want, then grab that link and let's have a chat. Schedule a time, let's have a chat. Again, the next course is starting on February 27th. I know that sounds like it's a long time away. It's still 5 or 6 weeks away, right? Time flies. I don't know about you, but I'm finding the older I get, the faster it goes, right? And so, if this sounds like it's of interest, we should talk right away and get those balls rolling to get you enrolled in the course. Fantastic. So you know a little bit about Pupils. There's so much more. We spend an entire 2.25 hour course class session on Pupils. So there's a lot more to learn about Pupils, where we look at all the different aspects of flattening and all the different things that different ellipses can mean. And we go deeper on the meiosis and the mydriasis kinds of things. What happens if they've got one small and one large pupil? What does that mean, right? So we go much, much deeper in the actual course. So with that, just before we wrap up, any questions? You've been a great group tonight. Any other questions that I can help you with? If you are typing something, just do a little raise hand so I know to wait for you, because that'll come through really quick. Otherwise, looks like we might be done for tonight. Interesting stuff when we start layering up the different parts of the eyeball to give us different types of information that all dovetails and all corroborates each other and helps us understand our client's symptoms and the roots of the problems better, so that we can do a much more effective job of creating protocols that will work. That is why we do iridology. So Jennifer has her hand raised, so I think she is typing things. There we go. She was giving us something. Thank you. Appreciate your wisdom and skill in teaching, says Martha. And I'm thinking Jennifer might still be typing. You're very welcome, Martha. It's great to see you again. And we'll give Jennifer just another minute. I think she's writing a novel for us, right, Jennifer? There we go. Would it be more beneficial to take an herbology class as well? I would be incorporating energy, sound, healing too. Sorry, haha, love that. I'm glad you can take a little bit of poking here, Jennifer, because I often will do that. And I expect my students to dish it back out to me as well, right? I mean, what I give out is only fair to take it back, right? So we do introduce a few basic herbal concepts with the iridology, but not enough for you to actually be totally proficient, more in the lines of getting students to be thinking about, again, what they already know. We also incorporate some nutrition with this, where we get students to start drawing on what they already know. So I would say yes, at some point in time, if you don't have nutrition or herbology under your belt, there would be tremendous benefit in adding one or both of those to your skill set as well. Absolutely. It gives you more tools to work with. I would be intrigued to see how energy and sound healing integrates with iridology. I think that would be an interesting journey for you. I've had like a physical therapist has done my course, and she uses the iridology with her physical therapy. She calls herself a holistic physical therapist, right? And so there's so many ways it can be integrated. I've had people who were aromatherapists do the course, right? And so I think that if you are well trained in energy and sound, that you would still have a good foundation. You would be able to find ways to integrate the iridology, and then as your life and time permit, add herbology and or nutrition, for instance, to your repertoire. I mean, you'd be such a powerhouse with the energy and the sound healing and iridology, and adding anything on top of that is just going to be an oh wow kind of thing, like a holy doodle, this woman knows her stuff, right? So yeah, I would say so. Yeah, absolutely. All righty. Anything else that I can help you with tonight? Okay, so Jennifer says, I'm very into herbs and teas and things as well, but I would need more. Is it better to take nutrients before or after iridology? Because you've already got sound and energy healing, you're doing a great job of typing fast. No apology needed there. Because you've already got the sound and the energy, you could do the iridology right out of the starting blocks here. You seriously could. And you already know a little bit about herbs and herbal teas. So as we play with that a bit in the course, it will give you a bit more, and will probably for you validate what you already know. And you may know more than what we even cover in class. Beyond that, I would say get started with what you've got. Get started with the energy and the sound, and integrate the iridology with that. You may find that you'd be in no rush to add herbology or nutrition when you combine the herbology or with the iridology with your energy and sound work. Do you see what I'm saying? Yeah, it is. I agree. She says, okay, I would love to know more about the herbal nutritional side. It's a beautiful blend. It is such a beautiful blend. And I do believe that every iridologist can benefit from adding those skill sets to their practice of iridology. I also think that delaying something that will integrate with everything until you've got all the other pieces might be a little bit backwards, right? Yes, I have my own tools too, I guess. I want to encompass it all. Don't we all? I mean, I have got so many certifications in so many different things, and I used to get them all framed. And I finally, when I moved into this tiny room in my home, I left a 750 square foot office space that had a waiting area, a front desk, a consultation room, and a classroom. I gave that up for 63 square feet. I don't have the wall space for everything. And so I finally had to decide, no, I can't hang everything. I just got to keep it in my head, right? So I get it. So I would honestly say, Jennifer, I would encourage you, do the iridology first, because we're going to find ways to integrate it with what you already do. And then as you add other things to it, herbology or nutrition or aromatherapy or whatever you want to add to it, it will just simply flesh things out even more, but you'll have that really strong foundation, right? Perfect. Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, fantastic. So yeah, grab that link. We should talk, right? Anybody else who is seriously thinking about the course, we should talk. And especially if you've got that A&P, if you've got the A&P under your belt, we should talk. If you don't have that, reach out to me and I'll give you the A&P link and we can get moving from there, right? So there we have it. Thank you. Thank you for being with me tonight. I really appreciate it. I loved the interaction. Thank you for that as well. I hope you have a wonderful, fabulous evening, and I hope to see you again real soon. Take care and bye for now.